I want to talk about those moments where it feels like things are falling apart. The moment where it feels like you have put in the work, you have done the right thing, your heart was in the right place, but it does not seem like things are actually working out the way that you had planned. Because that is a moment where most of us, we give up hope or we lose a lot of the tenacity and the energy that we have that we initially started out with. That's the moment where, if you're not careful, you will give up on the very things that you have been praying for, the very things that you have been hoping would happen in your life. The truth is, your enemy knows this, and so he will use this particular moment to inundate you with a lot of information that would lead to you believing that there is no hope, that there is no room for you to move forward. Your enemy will use this very moment to hope that you will give up and that you will walk away, that you will stop believing that things are possible. If you look around at all of the information that we take in daily, a lot of times we can take in a lot of negative information, whether it's from news sources or whether it's from social media, whether it's from friends or whether it's from just things that you've observed. Maybe it's in your own life that there's a lot of information of things that may not be working towards the goal that you have planned. Maybe that plan was for you to buy a house or build a house, and as you look around, you see more and more bills coming in. Maybe your credit is not rising to where you want it to be. And maybe you are laid off or your money starts being ciphered out of your account, and you begin to lose hope in whatever that dream is. And eventually you get to the place where you just give up and you stop trying. You stop saving, you stop looking, and that's where your enemy wants you to be. Maybe your goal was for you to get married. And it seems like the more you work on yourself, the more you're finding yourself isolating yourself. And it seems like the relationships that you had a bit of hope in, that eventually they started falling apart. They just weren't working for you. And so you see other people being happy, and then that information kind of comes in and it tells you that maybe it's not for me. Maybe it's a business or a dream, or maybe it's your healing that you've been praying for. And it seems like no matter how much you're praying and no matter how much you're working, it's just not progressing the direction that you wanted it to progress in the time that you wanted it to progress in. Those are moments that the enemy uses against us. Those moments that the enemy uses against us, he is hoping that you will give up hope, that you would walk away from whatever it is that you've been praying for or whatever it is that you've been believing for. There's a story that I often go to when I get to this moment, when I get to this place, because every last one of us gets there with what we're believing for, with what we are hoping would happen. Maybe you're taking in information of what's happening in the government. Maybe you're seeing what's happening across this world, and it's daunting, if you will. There's this scripture in Acts chapter 27, verse number 44. And this scripture references this moment where Paul had been told by God that he would make it to the other side, that he would make it ashore. They were on a trip and he was a prisoner on this boat, and God had given him a promise that he would make it and everyone that was with him would make it. But as they were traveling, a storm came and the ship began to break apart. The ship began to break apart in all of these various pieces. The very thing that they were trying to make it over on began to fall apart as they were riding it. It broke down to the point where there were just planks left to the ship. And Paul began to grab a hold to the planks, and he told those that were with him, grab a hold to the broken pieces. That would signify to me that, yeah, they would get over, but sometimes what you think that you will make it over on, you actually didn't need. That it's a greater miracle when you arrive at your location and the very ship that you started off with has been broken down to the studs. and you've made it over on barely nothing. Most of us would look at what we've lost, and we would look at what's fallen apart, and we would become discouraged. But if we hold faith to the promise that was given that we would make it, then we would know that anything that broke away, that anything that did not remain, it truly was never needed for us to make it to the location that God has promised us. Friends, sometimes in life, things break apart. Sometimes in life, things don't work as you hope that they would. But it does not mean that you're still not going to make it to your location. Acts 27:44, it is this perfect reminder that all of the passengers that were on the ship, they grabbed a hold to the planks and they still made it, even though the ship was no longer in the same condition as when they started. Things had fallen apart and things had broken apart, but the pieces that they were able to hold on to, the pieces that they held on to make it to survive, was all that was actually needed. That the whole ship could have gotten the credit if they had made it over to the other side on the ship as it was whole. That they could say that the ship indeed brought us over, that this was nothing to it. But the fact that the ship broke apart and left them with broken pieces, they had to know that the destination was designed by God. They had to know that the place that they were ending up was a place that God had truly intended for them to be, because what they were trying to do to get over was not working, but they only had left what remained, and that's what got them there. Friends, there are times in your life where things are not going to work out. There are times where jobs are going to fail you, where people and friends around you are going to walk away from you. There are times where your money's going to get funny. There are times where you're going to receive a lot of people and a lot of things that are trying you and that are walking away, and things that are breaking apart, and things that just aren't working like they're supposed to. But if God did indeed give you a promise, and you're still going, then some of those things that are falling apart are the things that God is telling you that you did not need, but the victory is guaranteed. Friends, it's a difficult walk to keep going when you're seeing the storm clouds rising in your life. It's a difficult walk for you to keep trying and keep believing when it looks like nothing is working in your favor, where instead of things working for you, things are uprooted and taken away from you. That's just God's signal that what you thought you needed in order to accomplish the task that you were set out to do, that evidently you truly didn't need it. That all you needed was what remained in the end. Because it's a finer demonstration of how God can actually bring you over, because people would get the credit. The money that you had would get the credit. The friends that you had around you would have been able to get the credit. The job that you had would have been able to get the credit. Your business acumen would have been able to get the credit. But if you can make it over when everything has left you, it proves that you were making it over by the power of God. Once Paul arrives to the island, as he makes it over on these broken pieces, he gets to the shore of the island, and the people there, they begin to welcome him, but they welcome him with the idea that he was a prisoner. And they set a fire for him to welcome him and to warm him. And as the fire started, a snake kind of slid out from underneath of the fire. And the snake bit Paul. I want you to imagine this, that he finally makes it to his destination. And no sooner than he makes it to his destination, a snake comes out and bites him, a venomous snake that has been known to kill people. Friends, there are times where we may make it to the next destination and something else may occur and something else may happen. And you may say to yourself, you mean to tell me I did all of this just to get here and for this to happen? Maybe it's the fact that you finally do get the house that you prayed for. And then once you get into the house, it's like you lose your job, or something else happens. And you say to yourself, certainly this is going to be the end, because that's just how life works. There's always another thing that we have to overcome. That the gift and the reward of one trouble and getting over that one trouble is right on the heels of you walking into the next one. I know that we want to live in this world where we can rise to the next moment and then nothing else bothers us. But the truth is that once you arrive to your next moment, there is another battle that is waiting for you. But even in this, when Paul was bit by the snake and the people were waiting for him to die, because that was what normally happened, somehow or another, Paul survived that too. And then the people looked at him and thought, maybe he's not a prisoner after all. Their opinion of Paul changed because he came into something else and he was able to overcome that as well, because Paul was more than an overcomer. And friends, that's what God is doing in your life even right now. That even though it may be another thing that you are facing, another thing that you're having to go through, there is a guarantee that you will survive that and make it through that. And the opinion that people have of you, it will have to change. But even if the opinion is not changing, your thought about yourself has to begin to evolve. Your thought about yourself has to begin to evolve, that no matter what I am faced with, no matter what I am tasked with, I will make it through every single time. That my victory is always guaranteed. Friends, even in the most daunting of moments in your life, when things are falling apart, there is still a promise that God has given you. That he would provide for you, that he would take care of you, that he would lead you, that he would guide you, that he would take you to an expected end, and that there is nothing on your heart that God has placed there that he is not God enough to bring to pass. And even if the things that you were thinking would be with you once you arrived are no longer there, then those things truly were things that you did not need. But you will make it, because your victory is guaranteed. And even when you get there and the next thing happens, when you're thinking that finally I'll get room to breathe, the next thing will happen. And when it does, you'll make it through that as well. That to every single level of you encountering something else that is challenging you, that is coming to try your faith, that your faith will stand the test, that you will not fail, that you will not be overcome, that you will certainly make it every single time to the other side of whatever you are faced with, because your victory is guaranteed. It's guaranteed. I want someone to feel this as your reminder today, that no matter what you're facing, your victory is guaranteed and you're going to make it. And it's going to be better than what you had imagined. It's going to be better than what you had prepared for, that everything that God promised you, it will be in your hands. I'm hoping that this message has encouraged you, that it has reminded you once again that maybe you needed to hear this, and that God wanted you to know that this is not the end. This is just the beginning, and you're going to see a better day. Thank you so much for following, and thank you so much for being a friend of mine. Thank you so much for every single one of you that sows so faithfully and that gives so faithfully, because these messages do encourage you and they do bless you. And I believe that as you give into something, that you are actually able to receive from that you give into. And so count it not robbery, but thank you for every person that gives and every person that prays for me. Please continue to pray for me. Weekly and daily, I am praying for you. I am praying that you will have the strength, that you will have the courage to go after what God has for you, and that you won't give up. God bless you today. Thank you so much for watching. Let's have an amazing week. Your victory is guaranteed. God bless you.